Hey guys, what's up and welcome to my video on BattleMaster. Before we start...
Sorry to inform you, this class is now called Wardancer. Please call it Wardancer.
Oh, right. They renamed this class into Wardancer. Well, I'll do my best to call it Wardancer, I guess. The Wardancer went under my radar for quite a while. I never really thought I'd enjoy this class, just figured it was some scuffed scrapper or soulfist, and oh boy, was I wrong. The Wardancer is an agile material artist that relies on using both her feet and her fists to deal damage. She's wearing some smaller gauntlets than the scrapper and will just kick and punch whatever stands in her way, and she's good at it. But not only that, the Wardancer also has self and party buffs. She increases movement speed, attack speed, crit chance and damage. For allies, they only get to profit from the movement speed, attack speed and crit chance, but that's still pretty nice. Let's go over the general playstyle of the Wardancer. Basically, you have a gauge, as every other class does, that you fill up and then you do something special. In the Wardancer's case, you basically just get 3 chakras. I honestly don't know what they're called, so we're gonna stay with chakras, and then you can use those on special ultimate skills. So basically, it's a burst-oriented class that builds this gauge and then consumes it for special moves. Nothing too crazy, nothing too fancy. Yet I have to tell you straight up that playstyle is pretty much dead right now. We'll get into that shortly. As you hopefully know by now, every class has 2 engravings that change the identity around a little bit. In the Wardancer's case, the first one is adding another chakram. So now you get 4. But yeah, it's pretty underpowered right now, so that playstyle is really not played a lot. If you think you would enjoy that kind of playstyle by building up and dumping your gauge into huge damage, you should probably check out the Striker. That could be your kind of class. But enough! Let's get into the current meta playstyle for the Wardancer. The engraving is called Beginner's Mind and basically removes your gauge completely and increasing the damage of non-ultimate skills. Wow, that's kinda boring, no? Well, honestly, not really. Instead of filling up your gauge and using an ultimate skill, you just kinda make your own. You respect your cooldowns and once they're back up, you burst. It's that simple. Basically, you have 1 buff, 1 debuff that you apply, and then 2 big damage skills that you dump into that window. If you can, you should fit in more of your skills. The burst window is around 5 to 7 seconds, and then you go back into hibernation for another 20 to 25 seconds depending on your cooldown reduction. So basically, the playstyle of Wardancer is pump, burst, sleep, rinse and repeat. Now that I've explained the general playstyle, let's talk about my opinion on this class. Like I mentioned earlier, I kinda slept on it. I never really thought that it looked interesting, but something awakened my interest, so I decided to give it a try. I leveled it to obviously 50, then to eye level 1370, which allowed me to do the first rather harder encounter in Lost Ark and get a feeling for how it plays properly. And honestly, I like it. It's a pretty fun class even though you have a lot of downtime. It feels quite mobile and your burst window actually does damage. Seeing my kicks hit for around 2 million every 20 seconds feels kinda nice. Obviously that number goes up with eye level, but I'm just comparing it to other classes on similar item level. The additional utility that the Wardancer brings is pretty neat. Pairing it up with other buffs feels really rewarding. But enough about praising the class, we also need to roll in some negatives. First, the obvious, missing your burst. God, does it feel bad when your target decides to just jump away or turn around, making you miss your back positionals. It feels absolutely horrible, honestly. But that's something you gotta deal with. And every class that relies on burst has this problem. You just gotta get good, basically. Furthermore, another negative thing is that I feel like the Wardancer needs a lot of prep. When I say prep, I mean a lot of investment. Some classes already contribute a lot of damage and utility by basically just existing. But the Wardancer doesn't. You need to dump resources into it and really optimize your gear with proper stats, jewels and tripods. Which is not necessarily bad, it just makes it a class that remains underwhelming until you really optimize it. And that's it for introducing you to the class. If you're more interested in skills and whatnot, stay tuned because I will be going shortly over how to play Wardancer properly. Let's start out with the Ascending Dragon Kick. It is a skill that allows you to cover a certain distance and gives you a small, very short lasting buff. This can be interchanged with other skills. I decided to run this one because I just like it. We move on to the next skill, which is Thunder Kick. Thunder Kick has a similar idea behind it than the Ascending Dragon Kick. It basically serves you the purpose of gap closing to the boss and making sure you can reach it during your burst. This skill has a low cooldown and can be used outside of your burst, but should also be put into your burst window. Next up, we have the inner key combustion, just an AoE around you that will do constant damage to the target when you're close to it and will put a bleed effect on it. On top of that, it also makes you take less damage if you choose the right tripod. Next up is Pummel. Pummel is a skill I would really suggest running because it's really good. It offers you destruction, impairment, and also has stagger immunity, which means you cannot be knocked back during it. Basically, it's a very fast skill that does decent amount of damage, and it can be or should be also put into your burst window. Now we move on and talk about the 4 skills that you definitely have to run on the Wardancer if you're playing Beginner's Mind. First up is Roar of Valor. It is basically party utility and buffing yourself at the same time. You put a debuff on the target that makes them take more critical hits, basically, increasing the critical hit chance from your party. This is very useful and should always be paired with the other skills that I'm going to name now. Next up, we have Wind's Whisper, your actual party utility. Basically, you increase your movement speed and your attack speed. On top of that, if you choose the right tripod, it also is a damage buff for yourself for 6 seconds, and it also increases your critical hit chance. This is your biggest buff for yourself and is very, very important. You should always pair this with Roar of Valor and obviously with the next 2 skills that I will be going over. One of your big hitting skills and long cooldown skills is the Crescent Kick. The Crescent Kick is just a fast executed, high damaging hit that should be put into your burst window. That's basically what it's about, not much. And lastly, another mandatory skill, which is your bread and butter, the Halberd Thrust Kick. This kick will do probably the most damage, or should at least, and is used also with your buff window. That way, you will pump the most damage possible. Please remember, this skill set is used for Beginner's Mind. There are different skill builds out there that use different engravings or no engravings basically. This is also just a personal opinion and I suggest running these skills. I have found them in Korean builds and in Russian builds basically. Last but not least, we're going to cover the engravings and your combat stats. For your combat stats, you should pump into critical and agility. This is very important to have more movement speed, lower cooldowns, and obviously the crit so you can crit more. Make sure to not overcap on 100% crit chance with all the buffs and whatnot that you are running. Engravings wise, there are certain engravings that are must-haves and others that you can choose to run. Obviously, we need to have Beginner's Mind, this can be at level 1 or level 3, and then you want to run Grudge and Sharp Blunt basically as mandatory engravings. Another engraving that works very well is the Blitz Commander. You can pair this also with Spirit Absorption. Lastly, obviously, as always, you can also choose to run Cursed Doll. Those are the engravings that I suggest to you to run for Beginner's Mind. And now you know what the Wardancer is about and you even know how to play it. Isn't that pretty cool? Anyway, I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys learned something today, and if you want to, you can always come by on my stream where I stream nearly every day at twitch.tv/IamFox. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you do enjoy my content. That would mean a lot to me. So again, thank you so much and thank you for watching until the end. On that note, I'm wishing you all a great day wherever you live.